Thank you. I want to share with you a couple of things about my way of thinking. I've always believed that everything in the world is interconnected. And I've always wanted to use that understanding to make a real difference in the world. John Muir once said, whenever you try to pick out anything by itself, you find it hitched to everything else in the universe. And Ice Cube once said, the worst thing you can do about a situation is nothing. And you know what's really cool? I think I might now be the first TEDx speaker in history to quote Ice Cube and John Muir in the same sentence. So now that we've gotten that historic milestone out of the way, I want to share with you something happening right here in South LA that illustrates these two ideas. A few months ago, I was listening to NPR News, and I heard about a project going on in South LA called Green Alleys. It's happening in the neighborhood around Avalon and 52nd Street. This is an illustration of the project right here. In this neighborhood, alleys are very important for pedestrian traffic. But the alleys are dirty, they're full of trash, they're unsafe. And what's even worse is when it rains, the alleys have very poor drainage, they flood, and people can't use them at all. So the Green Alleys project is aiming to fix all of these problems with one unified solution. They're going to install solar recharging lights that will make the alleys safer to use at nighttime. They're going to put in new pavement that lets water seep through to prevent flooding and naturally filter out pollution. Drought-tolerant plants will help beautify the neighborhood and help control dust. And public art projects will foster an appreciation of culture. Promoting safe use of these alleys helps people move to and from work. It helps kids move between school and home. It's good for the environment, public safety, and the economy. What's important about this project is that it doesn't treat any of the problems with alleys as separate issues. It treats them all as one interconnected system. And so I want to present to you an idea, a way of thinking that has enormous potential to bring about positive change in our community and the world. And it's something called design thinking. Design thinking is a method for problem solving. You start out by identifying what a problem is. Then you come up with many divergent ideas on how to address all facets of the problem. You bring together the ideas that work, and you discard the ones that don't. You repeat this process as necessary, refining your ideas on each go-around. And finally, you execute a solution. This is a very important model for dealing with the issues that we face in the world. And the three most important aspects of design thinking are, number one, empathy. That's why it's often called human-centered design. Number two, collaboration. You don't have to be a professional designer to participate, and diverse viewpoints are highly valuable. And number three, empowerment. Design thinking is about empowering people to become active participants in their own destiny. I teach user experience design at a college here in LA called General Assembly. And I believe that teaching people design is teaching people empowerment. My students come from a huge array of different backgrounds, and I really believe in the democratic principle that anyone can take part in design. We may not be able to predict the future, but working together, we can invent it. In service of this idea, I recently organized a design hackathon in South LA that brought together students and alumni from General Assembly and USC. And we spent a day working on issues facing our local community right here using design thinking principles. All of the teams came up with amazing inspirational ideas. And unfortunately, I don't have time to share all of them with you today. But I do want to share with you a couple of the proposals so that you can see just what's possible with people working together and applying design thinking principles. This is a smartphone app that one of the teams put together called Urban Green. As many of you may know, South LA has over 3,000 empty lots, many of them used for nothing more than dumping trash. There's an organization called LA Open Acres that has mapped all of these sites. But the Urban Green app goes even further. Using geolocation on your phone, you would be able to see all the empty lots in your immediate vicinity. You'd be able to look up who owns them and find out how to reclaim them. You would also be able to connect with others in your community to organize and work together. Urban green empowers people to turn empty lots into parks, playgrounds, and public gardens, with positive repercussions for the environment, the economy, public safety, and community pride. This is design thinking. This is another app called 100 and Rising. One of the challenges facing local business is how to attract investment in order to grow, perhaps expand staff, or withstand the pressures of gentrification. 100 and Rising empowers local minority-owned businesses to attract micro-investment in order to grow. It also empowers local minority entrepreneurs to raise the funds to start new businesses. The benefits of this include sustainable job growth, community pride, and also profits from locally owned businesses stay in the community rather than being exported out to another state or off to a bank account. 100 and Rising empowers local minority-owned businesses and entrepreneurs to be active participants in the economy rather than spectators. Earlier this year in Ohio, an educator ran an experiment called Prototype Design Camp. In this camp, he brought together high school students from both public and private high schools. They were organized into teams, taught design thinking principles, and then allowed to work on projects. Now, you'd probably expect high school students to be interested in designing new smartphone games or maybe internet memes, but that's not what they did. Instead, the students wanted to design new schools, new learning environments, new classrooms, and new ways to build social movements. In other words, they wanted to think big. Just by teaching high schoolers new ways of thinking about and solving problems, they were more engaged in their learning process. They were thinking in systems. The problems and challenges we face in our community, in this country, and in the world are big, complex, interrelated, and most of all, they're urgent. We need a new way of thinking to address these issues. I believe we need to be teaching design thinking at least at the high school level, if not earlier. In the words of Dr. King, we must embrace the fierce urgency of now. Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. Now is the time to design our own future. Thank you.